Okay, I think maybe we should start.
Let's do.
Okay. All right. So those of you that have joined us, good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening for this update on the Brick Township-wide Dredge permit. I'm Carol Besky, the Director of Public Involvement, and for the ACT team. And with us tonight is also your Township Engineer, Alyssa Cummins. And the rest of the ACT team, we have Eric Rosina, who is the Program Manager, Janetta Dix, who is the Project Manager, Travis Maris, who is the Design Engineer from Anchor QEA. So this is going to be obviously a very formal presentation to you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do, and then we're going to walk through it and then get to any questions that you have. So last October, a year ago, October of 2019, we met with the marine owners and talked about moving forward with the township-wide dredge permit. So tonight, what we're going to do is update you on the progress that has been made for the application permit, the application permit process. And what this is going to do, the permit is going to allow each of the property owners, marine owners, to proceed with whatever dredging needs that they may have. And that's what we're going to talk some more about tonight. We're going to identify volumes, some of the volumes and what's going on. But what that is going to do is save you a lot of dollars and a lot of complications with having to go back by yourself to go to DEP, to the Army Corps, and try to get a permit to do the dredging. So this is a big step forward for each and every owner that wishes to pursue dredging down the line. So this evening, we're going to go through a brief PowerPoint and with Janetta Dix, and then who's going to talk about a lot of the information that we've gathered from that meeting way back in October of 2019. And then after Janetta gets done, we're going to open it up to the questions and answers. But in the meantime, as she's talking, if you've got questions that you have when she's going through it, just type them in, because we can address everything as we move through the process, through this whole process. So Janetta, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks,
Carol. So Brick Township has more shoreline, we think, than any other municipality in the state. Like Carol said, the township contracted with ACT Engineers, and we surveyed the entire waterfront area, including 20 plus marinas. The surveying began in 2019. And this graphic shows all the surveyed areas. The blue is the state or federal channels. We didn't survey those. That data came from the Army Corps of Engineers or the DOT. And when we survey, we map these water depths for regulators and for people like me, so it's easier to understand with color coding. So you can see the legend on the left-hand side of your screen, and so this is water depths at mean low water. Most permit applications are approved for dredging of -5 feet mean low water with a 1 foot allowable over dredge. So pretty much anything from that second level of blue down are areas that are eligible for dredging under a permit application. So like I said, we surveyed everything, including 20 plus marinas. And we don't have all of them up tonight, but we have some examples. So here's a first example. This is lightning jacks. And we have these for every single marina. So I know there's 3 or 4 of you on the call or on the webinar. So we have them for your marina. And you can see here, we've highlighted the second blue line there of the 5 to 6 feet. So really anything below that is eligible for dredging. And as you can see, lightning jacks, most of it, with the exception of a little small blue area there, most of it is, 2 feet to 0 feet. So lots of dredging, needed for lightning jacks. The next one is marine max, again, water depths You know, you can see the nice, you know, dark blue areas where, you know, from boating that it's fairly deep. And again, we've surveyed from the bulkhead lines or the shoreline out, you know, a reasonable distance. I'll get into that a little later with the permit applications, but you know, far enough out beyond docks and within, you know, marina, within the marina basins. Next one is Wherlen Brothers, which is interesting. It's kind of half and half. You know, the eastern half has a little bit of water, you know, 4, 5, 6 feet, and then, you know, right up through the middle of the travel lane. But you can see all the yellow, which is 3 to 4 feet of water, mean low water. And then finally, Jersey Shore. So here's, and I know we're going through these pretty quick, and we'll go back to them at the end if you'd like, but just wanted to show you some examples of how we've surveyed and mapped everything, so that it's really easy to see and understand. So the next slide, this shows the dredge prism. We have generally, or the survey prism, I guess also dredge prism, which is 5 feet from the bulkhead outward. We don't get any closer to the bulkhead because we don't know the quality or the condition of that bulkhead. So typically our dredge permit application defines the dredge prism, the dredge area, as, you know, 5 feet out from the bulkhead. We hold that offset. Next slide. And here again, you know, is the total bathymetry. The Brick Township has asked us to link these maps to Google Earth, and we're in the process of doing that. We've run a couple of tests, and it works really, really amazing. You can type your address in, and it zooms you right to your property and shows you this legend and shows you that color overlay. We're wrestling with how to I mean, honestly, we're wrestling with how to roll that out, whether it's, you know, Google Earth, which is a public platform, or whether it is, you know, a website or a PDF, you know, file that is shared, you know, with, you know, each marina owner or each waterfront owner. So, you know, we're working through that, but we're hopeful that, you know, this will be a really interactive, you know, mechanism, so you can see exactly, you know, where you need to dredge, what you need to dredge, you know, in your current water depths based on our survey efforts. Next slide. So this is our project schedule. We started surveying Nejecho Lagoon in May of 2019. By the end of the year in 19, all of the bathymetry was completed. We've done some sediment sampling. We have a sediment sampling plan that was approved by the DEP. We collected about 100 samples and analyzed them for grain size. The regulations state that if you have less than 10% fines, then there's no additional sampling required. You may know, you know, what the material looks like, you know, from your marina. If it's more than 10% fine material, then chemical analysis, you know, is required. We have done some chemical analysis of some priority areas in the township, but to my knowledge, I don't believe we've done any secondary analysis of any marina material. A pilot application was submitted for Nejecho Lagoon in October of 2020 and then approved about 4 months later, which is typically about the review time for DEP. Army Corps runs about twice as long, if not a little bit longer. They don't have any legislative clocks at Army Corps, so you're kind of at their, you know, you're kind of at their discretion on how quickly they review those dredging permit applications. So the township-wide permit application was submitted in April of this year, just last month, and it is working its way through the regulatory review. It is a huge application. It speaks to dredging of about 1.8 million cubic yards of dredge material. We've identified a dredge material placement location for the first 50,000 cubic yards. anything after that, we're going to have to go back and modify the permit as we identify, additional areas for placement of dredge material for beneficial reuse. The Nejecho Lagoon permit identified the Windward Beach location as a place to place the material. It's about 2,000 cubic yards. It was nice sandy material. It was suitable to go on Windward Beach. We needed a subsequent application that just went in this month to place that dredge material, on Windward Beach. We do expect dredging restrictions for winter flounder from January 1st to May 31st of every year. So, the window available for dredging isn't the full year. It's, it's about half the year. So we always factor that into our, our project schedules. So next steps. So if you want to use the township at their expense has paid for the surveying, the initial sediment sampling, the engineering, the permit application fee, which was $30,000. So the township is working through those hurdles, and then we're hopeful that by the end of the year we'll have a permit for that anyone could use. The DEP permit is good for 5 years. The Army Corps of Engineers, and it's renewable for another 5. And then the Army Corps of Engineers permit is good for 10 years. So, once this permit's issued, a marina owner or a waterfront owner, does have a little bit of time to utilize, that permit. And once we have those permits in hand, then we'll certainly, shout that out. And then these are the next steps if you wanted to use the township's permit approval. The first step is really identifying where your dredge material would go, whether it would be trucked to, a landscaping, a nursery or a sod farm, or used on site, for fill material. The first step is really identifying where that dredge material goes. And then, if necessary, collecting additional samples, within your marina basin and having those analyzed for chemical analysis. And that chemical analysis may dictate where the dredge material can go, where it's suitable, to go. And then, like I said, the current permit application only identifies dredge hole number 25 for the initial placement of 50,000 cubic yards. So we would have to go back to the regulators and modify the permit to identify these additional, placement areas. So you would coordinate with the township and with Act Engineers to identify the additional disposal location, placement location, and then for us to modify, or the township to modify their permit. The township is listed as the applicant on this township-wide permit application, but certainly the township does not own all the water areas. And the way the regulators have been agreeing to do this in other municipalities that we've worked in is that once a property owner wants to use the township's permit, then there's some type of coordination with the township to identify the owner and some type of permitting process. I mean, I use permitting loosely. That the way that rolls out is still being worked out. Whether that's a local, Brick Township, dredging permit, whether that involves inspection or oversight. All of those things are currently, on the table and being worked out. We've done this in some other towns. Some other towns that we haven't worked in have also done this. So, we're not reinventing the wheel here. So we kind of know where that's headed. And then, ultimately you would engage a qualified contractor. And again, because this is the township's permit, any violations come back to the township. So we certainly have a vested interest in making sure that, the terms of the permit are, the terms and the conditions of the permit are met, and that it's done, responsibly. So that is a quick overview. know I went through it really fast. We can go back to slides if you'd like. And there's not a lot of you on here. It looks like to me that Cedarcroft is here, Kimberly Formato, Peter LeConte, Tom Beaton, and Wolf Creek Landing are here. I don't know if any of our example slides are these people. I mean, that would have been, nice, but I don't know. So if you have questions, please type them into the chat or the Q&A. I'm not sure which one we're using. And we can certainly go back and look at some of these slides if that's, something that you'd like to see. Alyssa, do you have anything? I know I kind of breezed over the whole township coordination, permitting. I don't know that we have those final, I don't know that we have that final mechanism, but maybe you've got some thoughts on how that rolls out or that's in the works.
So I have some thoughts on it, and my thought is that a marina owner or a property owner or an association would come to the township and apply to the township for a permit, and we would assign an inspector to your permit. And basically we want to make sure that what you're doing meets the terms and conditions of the township's permit from the state and from the Army Corps. I would love it if I could just trust everyone to work under this permit and know that all the conditions would be adhered to, but the reality is the township's going to get the fine in the event your contractor is not doing what he's supposed to do or disposing of the material the way they're supposed to. So it would save every owner the cost of doing the bathymetry, the permit application, and the permit fees.
Right.
Will also save you the coordination of having to find your own disposal location in the event you can't reuse the material on site. I don't have all of the details worked out, and I was hopeful that during these meetings, things would come up, questions would come up that would prompt me to have develop a plan, because this is new to me as well.
Right.
So we did have a question from Cedarcroft, or a raised hand from Cedarcroft. I'm going to open up that.
What about the Matitaconk River?
So that, right. So Wolf Creek
Right, there we
Landing
go.
has asked a question, but he's going with Matitaconk. Go ahead.
So I believe the Matitaconk is a channel. It's not something that the township was considering. If you want to go back to the bathymetry of the entire township slide, we can.
So was Wolf Creek Landing Marina?
It's on the south. It's on the south side of the Matitaconk River. We have the bathymetry there, but it wasn't a township. It wasn't one of the target sites the township was considering initiating. And there were no marina sites that the township was considering initiating. The township was considering doing some areas for property owners associations and recouping the money through a special assessment to the property owners. But private property marinas, the township was not going to actually do any of the dredging.
Oh, okay. We have to hire our own dredger. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's Cedarcroft, so I think we're unmuted now.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Our question is, and I wrote it in the Q&A also, is we're really interested in restoring our beach. And so we would love to know, how do we go about applying to get be in line for getting some of the dredge from any of the other marinas?
So, Janetta, please, because I talked to Cedarcroft briefly about it one day, but I was more or less repeating everything you had educated me on. So,
Right. So I had the opportunity to go out and meet with, and I apologize, I don't remember his name, but I met with someone out at
Colin, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. He couldn't make it tonight, so you've got the rest of us.
So we certainly recognize that there's an opportunity at Cedarcroft to beneficially reuse dredge material. It looks like it's just a matter of time before, that breach, that area is breached in between the lagoon and the bay front. It does involve, we have bathymetry there, we have the survey data. What we don't have is a design for a shoreline restoration. So it would be up to Cedarcroft to engage, an engineering firm and come up with a design for a shoreline restoration, for the placement of the material. And then, and then that could be identified in the township's permit application as a possible beneficial reuse, location. So it unfortunately, it does involve some engineering and some permitting that would be the responsibility of Cedarcroft. But you could, if you did that, then you could be in line, certainly for, some of the dredge, to accept dredge material.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I don't know if it's, if you're allowed to make some recommendations for those kind of shoreline restoration engineers, or how would we go about finding them?
I could certainly develop a list of between 3 and 10 and see where-
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much.
write that down.
Eric, do you want to unmute? You want to unmute Wolf Creek? Is Wolf Creek there?
It should be. It should be open.
They maybe haven't turned their mic on?
Maybe not. I'm showing their mic is open, so.
We could just go ahead and answer the question.
I'm here. I do not have a I don't have a
Oh,
camera.
so maybe they don't have a microphone either. So do we have bathymetry for Wolf Creek Marina?
We should. It's at the Matineconk River on the south side.
We should. So we have, so you would be one of those 20 plus marinas where we have the bathymetry. Once we have the township, permit application, then you could permit approvals. You could, like we summarized in those next steps, you could utilize that, that township permit, do any additional, sediment sampling, identify a place for your material to go, and then, use an authorized, reputable contractor. So again, like Alyssa said, a lot of the upfront cost, the surveying, the engineering, the dredge prism, the permit applications, the permit application fee, like all of that has been done or is in the works. So, your responsibility would be any sediment sampling and certainly the cost of dredging and dredge material disposal.
We can confirm that there's survey coverage and that area is included in the prism that was submitted.
Okay.
And that's something Eric and I were actually talking about a little bit earlier offline. If you wanted, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. If you wanted to hire someone to do your chemical analysis of your material because it was necessary, great. And if that was something you wanted to go through the town for, we were thinking about, if you just had no idea where to even begin with something like that, posting an escrow with the township that we could have ACT do the sampling for your particular location. And it would just, instead of you paying ACT directly, it would just go through an escrow account so that, so there's just no conflict of interest in that regard.
I mean, that's possible for any of the marinas, right?
Yes.
Or
I
all
mean,
of
even
them.
for residents, I mean, for all I know, I'm going to have a resident here that has, like, I have to remove 8,000 yards because I own that much property. But I'm trying to treat everybody the same. So.
Right.
So at the end of this presentation, you'll get a questionnaire, survey and a questionnaire, and that'll actually go out again tomorrow if you don't have time to do it now. But one of the things that'll last for is if you're interested in receiving this bathymetry that we're showing you, it'll be a link with some instructions. Just give us an email address. It is a large file, I will tell you that. So we will need to set up some way to get that to you. So that's about a 22 megabyte file. So not every email can receive that. So just make sure you're those requirements, but we will try and get that to you and develop that list. So you'll give us an email address for that.
I would offer if you didn't want to deal with the size of the file or you're not that computer savvy, if you wanted a PDF of your specific location, the township would be happy to provide it.
There you go.
That's great.
Alyssa, maybe we should go back to Cedarcroft maybe and think about the same kind of thing rather than them engaging. Maybe there's an opportunity here with escrow through the town, to do their shoreline restoration design. I don't know, but something we should kick around.
Yeah, that's not a bad, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what's really important to point out is that this is a work in progress, because the town is figuring out how to do these things and adding and building to make this really easy for all of the people who are interested in dredging. So, I mean, to the town's credit, they have really worked really hard to try to make all of this work for all of you that are going to be using the permit and needing to dredge. So it's really been a pleasure and very far thinking, I think, on the town's behalf. Are there any other questions that we have? Okay, if not, I would just like to say that if you think of something, or if you're talking to a neighbor who couldn't get on tonight, or if you want it, this is going to be on the township. No, this one is not going to be on the township website.
We can post it.
Can you post it? Okay.
Absolutely. If you can get us a copy of the recording, we'll post it.
Good. So it'll be on the township website, and any questions that come up that anybody has, there is the email address of brickdredging@actengineers.com. So if you need more information, or if you have a question or whatever, or just need help with something, then just send us an email and we would be more than happy to get back to you and help you out. And the other thing is that as Eric mentioned, there's a questionnaire that you're going to be receiving automatically. And if you would take the time, it's a very short questionnaire, and just send it back to us, because that helps develop the whole process and helps us help Brick Township develop the whole process. So we appreciate all that information. So if there's nothing else, I would just like to say thank you to those of you who joined us. Hopefully we'll be hearing from you, and thank you to the panel from ACT and Anchor QEA, and Melissa, thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Take care.